Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking About the Big Stuff podcast with Michael Cole and Matthew Cravat. I am Michael Cole.
And I am Matthew Cravat.
All right, so tonight we are talking about pride. And not, like as I texted you earlier, not the gay kind.
No, the incest kind, right?
No, like I think we did an episode about pride that for like, but it was specifically gay pride, like kind of.
Yeah,
pride.
we're talking about like incest, right? Like Simba and Nala are in the same pride, and only the head of the pride gets to have kids. So clearly, siblings.
No, it came up because I went back to work today, and Sarah and I were talking. I don't know, maybe last 4 or 5 days, and she was like, well, part of the problem is that despite everything you say, you actually take pride in your work. And I was like, that's true. And she was like, because one of the things that had frustrated me over the last year and a half is that like I am relatively out of control at work of my output. Like people don't listen to me even when I know more than them about certain things, and it doesn't help when I say I know more than you. But like, so she was telling me that it's if you didn't take pride in your work, then that would be different. And starting work today, a lot has I've gone through a lot this last 6 months, and a lot has changed. But one of the things was like I'm really going to try not to make any of this. I'm not gonna try to connect with my work emotionally. I'm not gonna try to like take pride. I'm not gonna like blow it off. But it is like when I'm done, I'm done. There is I have no emotional stakes in it, and
So I know you think you're smart at work, but I had a coworker once, a director, who told me I was the smartest person in the company. And we worked with some brilliant people, statisticians and scientists, right? Yeah. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, at 5 o'clock, before you get to your car, you have forgotten you have a job here.
Yeah.
Like you don't think about it, you don't care about it, you're just going home. Because that's hard in marketing. Most people aren't able to just turn it off and not care. Like, what gets you out of bed in the morning? My alarm and the fact that I have to come here, not the joy in the project I'm going to do this week.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. In certain jobs, when I worked with you, I was very happy with what I was doing because I was working with you. I was working for a company that was doing something good for the world. And the company that I work for now, if we're being completely generous, doesn't do anything.
Provides goods and services, but they're not life essential goods and services.
Right. They're not, we're not doing doing life-saving blood tests.
You're not doing evil, but you're just providing the products that people want to buy.
Exactly. So like taking pride in it has like when I started there, I took pride in it.
So many brands of chips when they come to my place.
Yeah. But when I started there, I really liked the team, and I loved my two bosses, and so like they were the best bosses I've ever had.
I'm calling Lenny.
Yeah. Well, I was meaning towards you.
I know. It's like me and Lenny are supposed to be the two best bosses you ever had.
Yeah. No, Lenny was a good boss. You were a great boss. But like I did take pride in it because I liked the team and
I'm with you. I mean, the reason I'm in pharma and I was in diagnostics before is I could do marketing for any kind of company, but I really want to stay in life sciences because I'm not smart enough to be a doctor or be a scientist and save lives, but I'm able to provide to the mission statement of saving lives and improving public health. And as much as people don't like these kind of companies because they make money, and I get that, and I don't disagree with it. At the same time, if there were no HIV medicines, we would be worse off. The company's got to do that, and we got to sell it. And the only way in our current society to get doctors to really know everything, they're too busy to be reading every study on their own and going to seminars and stuff. We have to spoon feed them, or they don't get the information.
Yeah. I mean, we need. Yeah, I get that because. Especially with HIV medicine, I forget what podcast I was listening to in the last couple of weeks. I'm sure it was definitely one of the ones that you and I listened to both, but they were talking about there's some really promising HIV medicine
that competitor to one of our meds.
but it's
Yeah,
real, like
it's amazing.
they're saying that it could essentially be like essentially a cure.
I mean,
if it's
it's
used
a once every 6 month injection instead of a currently my company makes a
right,
once every other month injection. So it's
right,
a one if it works as well, which it
yeah,
seems to, especially for things like in, forget about where we live, but in Africa, where you can't
yeah,
get someone to take medicine on a daily basis,
yeah,
they don't live near a hospital, just be able to send someone once every 6 months into town and give everyone an injection who's sexually active,
yeah.
it might get rid of the epidemic in Africa.
Yeah, yeah, and they were talking about that exact situation. They were saying it's weird that we're at a point in society where we have to not only come up with the cure, but we have to figure out how to sell you how to make you want to take the cure, and especially because HIV has such a high stigma to it. But like that's if every doctor understands that, or if you can get all the doctors to understand the benefits of it, then that will help hopefully push it out to the community.
And it's tough to get people to even doctors to change what they do. They're
Yeah,
like, oh, I have patients who take a pill every day and it works. So why would I want to swap them to getting an injection once every other month or every 6 months? What they're doing works.
yeah,
And they're too busy and they don't have enough relationship to see how hard that is to take a pill every day for people. So for
yeah,
some people, not everyone, some people that's the perfect solution. But for some people, it's like,
yeah,
oh, I can just come in every other month, get a shot, or go to a pharmacy and an
yeah,
infusion center and get a shot. Sweet. So
yeah,
they don't always have those conversations, but that's why I take pride in where I work and what I work. So to be on topic in our little tangent on this
yeah.
is, I remember in the old days, Glaxo had a video. There's a song that I sent you a link to the video for it about what makes you feel proud, and we used it at every town hall meeting and stuff. It was a way to psych everybody up, and it was this energetic hip hop thing about pride. And we had a video that would superimpose how many lives are saved from each medicine that we sell, how many people are taking it, or how many lives saved, or how many um, just mostly life saved, but also how many asthma attacks that didn't go to the hospital because the emergency rescue medicine was there, and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. And our old CEO way back when used to always, when we sold over the counter stuff too, would say, and millions of people go to work this morning, and because they use Aquafresh, their breath doesn't stink. Because we used to own that.
Nice.
But yeah, so I tell you, I could sell chocolate bars, or I could market chocolate bars or cars, but I've done pharma and diagnostic laboratory tests because I can feel proud in what the product we're putting out there is. Not proud in everything the industry does or even the
Yeah.
company does sometimes, but at the end of the day,
You're still operating within capitalism.
I'm helping. Yeah, it is what it is, and my company I feel like is more ethical than most.
Yeah. Sometimes when Sarah and I are talking about frustrations in with work, and we're and she'll say, this is this aspect is really frustrating, and I go, oh yeah, it's really frustrating, and same thing at my work or whatever. And occasionally I'll say it, and she'll like, you don't think I get frustrated by that? And I'm like, but you are actually doing something that helps people, and I and I have a real that's
It's like a risk benefit thing. Like she's going
yeah,
through a lot of stress, but she
yeah,
knows she's actually making lives better
yeah, exactly. Like
when she comes out of that stress. Yeah.
yeah, if I was like, if it, and I'm not, like I said, we're not doing anything terrible, but like we're not, I'm not seeing much of like how we're really making the world a better place, and like, so it lowers the stakes for me. Now, right now, I need the stakes lowered. Like I don't like. It's a job. It's not a career. It's not where I want to be in 5 to 10 years from now. But it's a job. So I just want to show up at 8 in the morning and leave at 5, and I don't want to think about it otherwise, unless I'm making a podcast and need content. Um, it's so like that is kind of where I'm at, and so like I've had to take a step back from the fact that I do naturally want to, I take pride, and I want like people to be like, okay, you did a good job, we're happy with what you're doing.
My problem is I hate people who are bad at what they do. And since I'm in digital marketing and websites and such, there are websites I go to where I am so frustrated. I'm so upset. I'm like, I would fire myself if I let this website go live. And so can't help but hold myself to a standard at work for the product I'm putting out, at least. Like maybe not my attitude and maybe not this or that. But at the end of the day, what goes live has to be right. Like
Yeah.
there's no, it's good enough.
Yeah. Is that why? Is that attitude of getting frustrated when people aren't good at what they do? Is that why you don't like doing exit interviews with me specifically?
That's not the only reason. I mean, part of,
I was a much better improver when I had less on my plate 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
yeah. I mean,
Not great, but
I think we've done some pretty good improvisations in the next interview. It's just, it's a weird
Yeah.
format, and it's hard to keep coming up with more reasons to leave a job.
Yeah.
So how many can we do? The really cathartic ones are really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll come up with some more. I think we need to do a exit interviews day where we invite a bunch of, hey, Mikey, you're listening, you're going to be part of it. Invite a bunch of improvisers we know, like to give them time slots and have people call in throughout a day and do a season.
That sounds good. Yeah. Yeah. And we could take pride in that. I do take pride in this podcast. Like I know that I see some of the comments that people have said about our audio being, and I'm constantly trying to improve our audio. And
it's tough when it takes expensive equipment to do that, and the podcast does not make money to pay for its own equipment.
The podcast loses money as of
I'm saying
like I'm spending more money than we're getting back, like from which reminds me, if you want us to take even more pride in this podcast, go to Patreon.
Pride as a listener and give us gifts of money.
And go to patreon.com/talking about the big stuff, and we will take your money, and then we will take pride in our product. No, I do genuinely put as much as I can into the podcast, and I've got the grays to show for it.
And guys, you should see his pubes. It's just like, it's so gray.
Yeah, one short gray. Have you seen Wicked?
No.
Oh. Every time, so Sarah
there are certain plays that when they come to DPAC, my wife and daughter go without me. We have 2 seats, and I don't get to go to every show.
Yeah, but the movie too.
There's a movie.
Wicked.
Yeah. Is that like the John Wick prequel that takes place in Boston?
Wicked. Yeah. It's Wicked. I did love one of the Boston. It was a sketch where it was like a bunch of guys from Boston going to see Wicked, and they're like, "What? That movie wasn't Wick. What wasn't? There's no Wahlberg, no Affleck.
They didn't go to Duncan. What's going on?"
And then he goes, "But you kind of remind me of Elphaba," and then he's like, "You remind me of Glinda. That movie was wicked awesome. That's why they call it Wicked."
Have you seen the guy who's on like TikTok and YouTube and Instagram, whatever, who does Massachusetts or Boston reviews of everything?
Yeah.
He's
funny once or twice, and then like it gets. I feel like it got old real quick.
Two witches. You're hoping they're going to make it together, but they don't make it together. 5 stars.
Yeah, 5 stars. Yeah. Sarah follows a guy. He's No Luck Anthony or something like that, and he does like really weird Facebook marketplace postings. So he'll be like a doll with no eyes and no hair, and and he reads the like listing and comments on the picture and stuff. Anyway, this isn't going to be the episode where you get to accomplish your New Year's resolution for the podcast. So I take pride in I'll tell you what, genuinely, something that made me that I was very proud of myself for. One of the last 2 exit interviews we did, I made you break character, and I was so proud. As soon as we were done that night, I went downstairs and I was like, I made Matthew break character. And I haven't edited it yet.
When I did improv regularly, the idiots, we had various casts and changes over the years, but 3 of the core members, Mikey, Wade, and I, and like I was director, Wade was my assistant director, Mikey was producer, so we were like the management team and whatever. Making each other break was the reason we performed. Like we couldn't make each other, especially what I used to love was if we did Shakespeare scenes, and in a Shakespeare scene, if I could come up with a funny enough name for a character that could get Wade gone right in the beginning, and then he's easy target through the entire scene. Like whatever his occupation was, I would make a Shakespearean name out of it. Like he was sweeping, and I came in, and he goes, "Oh my lord, I am here sweeping the floor from the dust that doth collect from the morning dew." I'm like, "Good job, Sanitatio," and he's just gone. It's like
nice.
My brain is not even close to what it once was. I don't even know who I am anymore.
Yeah, you're a very tall man. That's who you are.
Called Dennis.
Yankee pride. I like that. Anyway, pride. What do we don't have to just talk about pride and work.
Yes, I mean, I think pride is one of those words that if we forgetting about gay pride and that whole realm, not because that's a whole its own thing. Capital P pride is different than lowercase p pride. So say that it's one of those words that I feel similar to the word entitlement has taken on a negative connotation that is not inherent in the word. Yeah. Like if you say take pride in your work, people get that. But if you say, "Oh, he's really proud, he's really prideful," that sounds like a negative. Like when people say, "Oh, he's right, he wants an entitlement." No, entitlement is something you're entitled to. It's something you earned. That's what the word means. It's a false sense of entitlement that's bad. But people have dropped off the false sense of and just think of the word entitlement as bad.
Yep.
I feel like pride gets that bad rap. Also, like pride goeth before a fall. But pride is an important thing because it's what self-motivates you to do a good job. It's what gives you, though, I mean, Logan is young yet to have lots of things to be super proud of as much as you're just, excited by him. But like my kids do things that I am proud of. They are people who are functioning members of society. Like when Leah is off meeting with politicians and trying to make a difference, I can feel pride on her behalf. That's a motivating reason to feel like I did a good job as a parent, and I'm proud of what I did raising her and the person she is. I'm proud of. Here's what I'm really proud of. Jacob was in Saudi Arabia, and he sent me 2 pictures. And he said, "Check out these 2 camels." And the first picture was a Bedouin or someone leading a camel across a desert that Jacob took the picture. And the second one was a kebab on his plate.
Nice.
I could not be more proud of that moment.
Yeah. I back to your comment about pride being one of those words that kind of gets the bad rap. I think it's because people don't there's a lot of like nuance is
for the weak.
Nuance is really
a dying art
in short supply especially in America. And I think it's the people the people who, I think this is a lot of the same people, the people who would say say pride's a bad thing pretty much outright, or like why would they be proud? It says it's in the Bible not to be proud and blah blah blah. Those people are the same people who would, well, what's wrong with nationalism? It's just loving my nation. And it's like, no, you're thinking about patriotism while you're talking about nationalism. And so we don't have the nuance there. And it's like, we are all aware of the concept of everything in moderation, like a glass of water is a good moderation in moderation. But that we were aware of a glass of water, a good thing. You can drown though. So the idea
everyone who's ever drank water has died so far.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know if I saw a comic yesterday on Instagram. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And it said, everybody who misunderstands, mistakes.
Anyone who doesn't understand correlation has died. Anyone who can tell just in correlation and causation has died.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that we understand these concepts, but then you give it to something like pride, and I think that when you talk about pride in something else, someone else, those people typically would be like, yeah, I'm proud of my son for graduating college, or I'm proud of my, they can be proud of somebody else.
Yeah, but if you go to full Puritanism, though, they would say that's a sin.
True.
They would say any amount of pride is sinful. And I've been watching Ghosts recently, the U.S. version. And they have they had one person, Prudence, who was like a Puritan, and anything was anything in enjoyment was negative and a horrible thing.
Yeah.
And I know it's not a historical drama; it's a comedy, but it's just fresh in my head, that idea.
That's the one with Craig Ferguson or Robinson. Craig Robinson. He's Daryl from The Office.
No.
Okay, then I don't know what show you're talking
about. No. Ghost is the girl who was a yellow Power Ranger and then iZombie is the star of it.
Oh, okay. Then I have no idea.
Yeah, it's based on a British show called Ghost, which ended last year, which I've watched the complete episode. It's very good. It's about a woman who inherits a big old mansion and falls and is clinically dead for a couple minutes, and when she wakes up, she can see the ghosts that haunt the mansion. And there's cool. A Revolutionary War captain and
I did see the trailer. Yeah,
it's actually very well done. It's surprisingly good comedy.
Nice.
I'm proud of the people who put it together, and I actually love the woman who's the star, and I forget her name, but because I'm not good with names, but she was the star of iZombie, and I remember when I saw iZombie that I'm like, this girl's brilliant. Like she every time in iZombie, for those who haven't seen it, she's a zombie and she's a coroner, and when she eats a brain, she gets the memories of people, so she helps solve crimes with the police because she has the memories of the victim. But she also gets the personalities of them. So every week she's being a different character.
Yeah.
And I'm like, her acting skills are so top notch.
And she's Australian and
New Zealand.
Plays American.
New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Yeah,
her name's Rose McIver.
Yeah.
She also looks very different in everything I've seen her in.
Yeah. I watch it, and until Madhavi said, she does these Christmas princess movies that me and Leah love. And I was like, I thought that was the iZombie girl. And she's like, yeah, that's who it is, Matthew. I'm like, been watching her for 2 years, didn't realize it was her.
Yeah. A Christmas Prince.
Yeah, Madhavi and Leah love those movies. I think there's 3 of them, maybe.
The Princess Switch. The Christmas Prince. The Royal Baby.
Mm-hmm.
And A Christmas Prince Royal Wedding. Oh, no, there's 4 of them.
Oh, 4 of them. Look at that. Yeah. I don't watch them. I mean, I've seen pieces of them over their shoulders during last week when we were, 2 weeks ago, whatever, Christmas week, we were at the beach. They were watching them on Netflix or Amazon or whatever.
Nice. She also played Tinkerbell in Once Upon a Time, which I never watched regularly, but I do have, after Julia Roberts, I do have a little bit of a Tinkerbell thing. So I think that's Julia Roberts' hottest role.
Jacob,
hot take.
Joseph has just started reading the Fables comic books, or the graphic novel collections of them from the library, which nice. Like Once Upon a Time was inspired by, not based on, because not the same story at all, but inspired by the idea of fairy tale characters in modern world. Comes from that. It's an excellently written series.
Nice. Yeah. Anyway, I'm proud of my hot take that Julia Roberts' hottest role is Tinkerbell in Hook.
Yeah.
Did you like Hook?
I saw it in the movies. Madhavi and I saw it on a date. I think we were dating when it came out still. So, yeah, we drove to North Raleigh and we loved it.
Oh, good. The reason I ask is
it's an excellent movie. I mean, there's not much Robin Williams I don't love. I mean, I grew up in the 70s. I was a Robin Williams stan from the beginning.
Yeah. The reason I ask is because it seems like there's a dividing line between people who saw that movie as an adult and people who saw that movie as a child. Because, like, that movie got horribly panned. Adult, like, audiences, critics, nobody liked it, it seems like.
Huh.
But kids, like, when that movie came out, I was, like, 8, and I love that movie. I've watched it with Logan in the last 2 years. And I'm like, it holds up. It's amazing.
I get choked up watching it.
Yeah. And everyone that I've ever talked to that's my age is like, no, Hook is amazing. Yeah. Alex, are you still listening? What do you think of Hook?
Hit us up in the chat, Alex. What's going
on?
Alex
has not seen Hook.
Yeah.
But
yeah. I think it's. I mean, I don't remember having any reservations about it when I saw it, and we were. I mean, what year was it?
1992 or so.
No, heavy later than that. I'm sure. Unless I'm misremembering, I could swear Madhavi and I saw it together in the theater, so it would have been 87 or 88.
No, it
after you
was
wrote this.
90s for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh, you said 82. I thought you said 82. So even 92.
No, 92. Sorry.
So then it was. They would have been when we were first married if it was that early. So that
Yeah.
that which made sense to me. We were together. I know I feel like we saw it together.
Yeah.
I thought it was when we were still young and dating. But
Hook, 1991.
91. Okay, so before we were married, but we were engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I remember loving everything. I mean, I'm a big Peter Pan fan to begin with.
Yeah.
So I remember no negativity about it. I mean, Rufio.
And Logan was watching in the last 6 months or a year. He was watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I'm like, I think that the bad guy is Rufio.
Rufio's voice,
and it is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, that is weird that I could pick that up, but I love Rufio.
So that's a pretty good emotional death scene for a kid to handle.
Yeah,
like Rufio's like, a lot of movies have death scenes, but whatever. But this Rufio is just a pure. This kid did not deserve to die moment.
Yeah. I think Hook. Actually, there's two movies.
Past it really fast. It's 5 seconds of he's sad, and then he goes sword fight, and you don't think about it again. I guess
there's two movies from the early '90s that did really poorly with adults and really well with children, and I think if they were released today, would do well with adults today because they were ahead of the curve. Like I think Hook is like we have all kinds of like spin-off, especially of fairy tales and stuff, and I think that was such a good one of it. And I think people were like, oh, it's not a traditional Peter Pan story, which is weird. And now you'd be like, well, we don't want to see a traditional Peter Pan story. We want to see like some weird reimagining. And then the other movie, and I'm curious because you would have been an adult when this came out as well. Last Action Hero.
I did not see that in the theaters. I've just seen it like on TV, chopped up. Schwarzenegger movies weren't always my big thing, so nothing against it, but it just wasn't something I ran out to see.
Oh, see, I think that one is really interesting and like it's so meta, and we weren't into meta yet in 1992 or 3 or whatever year that came out, and so like I think, yeah. Anyway, I'm proud of my movie knowledge, so. So we're not off topic.
Yeah, I'm proud of what a well-rounded, stable individual Governor Schwarzenegger is. His recent last couple of years of social media have just been very level-headed.
Yeah.
Like I said, why can't more Republicans be like him?
Yeah, I mean, I think
he would be a Democrat in North Carolina, though. That thing is like he's such a moderate Republican. He's like Democrat here.
But also, like, his father was part of the Nazi Party, and who
doesn't love a party?
Well, what the whole process of that did to him, and like he's talked about it, and he's like, my father was a shell of a man because of going through that, and like, I didn't know you yet when Trump was elected the first time, but I remember getting into some Facebook arguments with people, and referring to or comparing him to Hitler, and people being like, that's really ridiculous, you need to learn history. And I'm like, well, I mean, Hitler didn't kill 6.2 million Jews on day one. It took a little building up to, and now, we're now 9 years down the road almost on that, and it's like, all right, he had camps where he was doing forced hysterectomies on people, and now he's literally talking about annexing basically the rest of North America, like the rest of the continent he's trying to take over. When does it become Hitlery? Like, when can we say it?
So it's a fight I used to have with my dad when Lou Dobbs was still on CNN, and my dad loved him. And he was so anti-immigration, anti-Mexican. Even my dad be like, but he has a Mexican wife. I'm like, I don't care. People who hate women and beat women have wives. Like, that doesn't mean anything. And I was like, it's the next Nazism. I mean, like, George Bush was president at the time, and he was not anti-Latino. No. And I was like, if it wasn't him who's president, though, like, they're setting Mexicans up to be the next Jews for the next Holocaust, like blaming everything on them. They're just setting them up. And he didn't see it until Lou Dobbs left CNN, went to Fox, and like went further down the path. Then my dad was like, now I see it. Like, he hit it well enough to have me going along with him. And then when he took off his mask, my dad was like, well, how in the world was I listening to anything he said? I'm like, no. And my dad was a super smart guy and a hippie. So like, anyone can fall down that trap if they're led the right way.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, we tend to think of like when liberals fall for stupid shit, we think of it as being like, I don't want to say inconsequential, but I'll say less or apolitical sometimes. Like pre COVID, being an anti-vaxxer was a liberal whack job typically.
But it was conservatives were anti-vax because they didn't trust the government telling them to get vaccines. Liberals were anti-vax because they didn't trust the pharma companies making the vaccines.
Yeah.
Like they had like it was, they went so far around they touched on the other side, but with different reasons of why they were there. But yeah.
And so like we do have our wackadoodles that can, people can on the left can fall for some dumb shit. And so and smart people fall for dumb shit. That's a really hard thing for a lot of people to understand.
So I don't know if you've listened to this podcast. I don't know if you listen to The World's Greatest Con. If not, you should. It's short seasons. Like there's a couple like stories they tell, and it's that what they say in every single episode. Like they end every episode with, "People don't fall for cons because they're stupid. They fall for cons because they're human." They say that in every episode. It's like we want to believe things. We see patterns. We want to believe the world is what is just and fair. So when you give us a reason to believe it, we take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and sometimes people are desperate, and desperate can change things. And Noah did a diatribe about the lottery in the last 6 weeks or so, and he's like, you want to think it's just dumb people, but like you get it because there's the hope of something changing.
My dad had an employee who won $100,000 in New York Lotto, so you're like, I know it can happen because he won.
Yep. All right. Pride. We've covered like pride pretty well as far as like being proud of your
So here's where I have the weirdest moments of pride because I have not a lot of justification for it, but a friend of mine who was a comedy student of mine once upon a time has been nominated for Tonys. He and another friend who was not a student of mine but friendly with him. He and his best friend, they wrote Gutenberg the Bible, which became huge on Broadway, and I mean they wrote it 20 years ago when they were at Upright Citizens Brigade, and it's played consistently in little theaters, but suddenly it made it big. They wrote the book to Beetlejuice the musical, so that they adapted Beetlejuice the musical, were nominated for a Tony for it, but didn't win. And they both write other stuff. I mean, and Anthony, my buddy, writes has been nominated for Emmys before. He writes on a lot of TV shows and stuff. And I have so much pride in what they do, and I take zero credit for it. Like it's not pride that I did anything to encourage it. I just happened to know him early in his career and do stuff with him. I don't think what I contributed made a difference in where he is.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of third person pride in everything Anthony does, just because my connection to him makes me proud for him.
That's cool. I just pulled him up on Wikipedia. That's pretty cool.
Our group had a thing where we went to see the movie Tombstone every Sunday at the Dollar Theater, like 15 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And one day we all dressed in character and we bought props and we acted out, took apart my futon and used it as the OK Corral, turned it sideways so it was the corral. And we acted out the entire movie on a Saturday afternoon. And then we had a show that night, and Anthony was in like a freshman or sophomore, I think maybe sophomore in college. And a high school senior asked him to high school prom as a favor. And so he went to prom with her, but he went dressed as Morgan Earp from our reenactment. Fake mustache on, cowboy outfit, had my pocket watch, was like a wedding gift from Madhavi, so it went across his vest from pocket to pocket.
You did a pocket watch wedding gift for your
Madhavi gave me no. Madhavi gave me one. I lent it to him to use as a
that's what I got my groomsmen for.
Oh, cool.
Was pocket watches.
I didn't have groomsmen because I had an Indian wedding. So Madhavi got me one. It says Mzadi in it, which is Beta Z for beloved and dear. And But Anthony went on this date, and he goes, "If the date's boring, I'm going to ditch her and come to the show." And then halfway through the show, the guy who was doing the announcing and music and sound effects, he had been Doc Holliday in our reenactment, and he was spitting up fake blood the whole time. And he swallowed so much of it that he was nauseous. And while he was focused on the show, he was okay. But the last part of our first act, there's a lot of me as the host talking to the audience and him doing nothing. And he couldn't distract himself anymore. So he was like, "Can I go to the bathroom?" And I'm like, "What shit is he doing?" And I turn to look at him, and he's just pale white. I'm like, "Oh, yes, you can go." And he goes off, and as he goes off, I see Anthony's at the bar with Madhavi. I'm like, "Oh, he ditched his date and came to the show." And he went in the bathroom with Ross. Ross puking his guts up, puking red because all the fake blood he swallowed. It's just disgusting. And Anthony's like, "I'll take over for you." So Anthony comes in, he's coming down the aisle to take over the position. And I kind of piece together in my head what's going on while I'm talking to the audience. So I'm like, "Ladies and gentlemen, taking over as Mr. Voice is Morgan Earp," because his name just left me. And Anthony looked at me, went, nodded, and he went, "Howdy, partners." Sat down, and he did the rest of the show in character as Morgan Earp.
Nice.
It was so much fun. And now he's Emmy and Tony nominated. One day we'll win.
Yeah. I just looked him up. He's got some good credits. It's cool. I don't have anything like that. I haven't taught anybody. I haven't done anything good. So
I'm old. You live long enough. You do lots of shit.
Yeah, I'm proud. I mean, my biggest pride thing is Logan, obviously. Despite what you said, the shit you were talking about him, he is quite accomplished as a piano player, and he's already writing stuff, and so I'm very proud of.
And he was one of the Electoral College electors for Trump, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. One of the youngest ones in the state.
Yeah, he probably would have been. No, he was telling us recently. I'm proud of this. He was telling us that because he talks to, when an election happens, kids talk, and so he was talking to a bunch of different kids about the election, and for the most part, if a kid says they're voting for Kamala, their parent voted for Kamala. And if they say they voted for Trump, their parent voted for Trump. So we're assuming, and he says, well, this kid said he voted for Kamala, and then this kid said he voted for Trump, and I said, what do you say back to them when they say that? And he goes, well, if they say they voted for Trump, I say, oh, okay. And if they say they voted for Kamala, I say, I would have too if I could have voted.
Oh, he's maturing well.
Yeah. I was so proud of him. He's like, he still doesn't quite understand why we like, he doesn't get he is mimicking what Sarah and I are voting, but his commentary sometimes is hilarious.
Yeah.
He'll talk about because arguably he got more ads than either of us do because he watches YouTube and stuff. So and they had lots of political ads. So like we had to explain what abortion was this last 6 months. And then, but he also is like, well, if you voted for Trump, you're probably a billionaire because Trump is only helping billionaires. And
or you think you're going to be one day.
Yeah. I'm like, well, it's a little more nuanced than that, but yeah.
There's those great moments the first time your kid curses at an adult and you support them in it. We once had people over for some reason, I don't remember, but a neighbor who's Republican was over, and she said something how she doesn't think young people should be politically active because they don't really know what they think yet. They don't know where they're going to believe in the future. And Leah was 15 or 16, and she goes, I know I don't want to get a fucking shot in school.
Nice. I think that's it's
so perfect.
It's such a horseshit thing to say, though. I've listened to some stuff that makes me almost on the verge of anybody who is represented should be able to vote, including children.
Except most of them, like you say, will just do whatever their parents tell them to do. So it's kind of
but
whoever has
most 18-year-olds do
votes.
too. Most 19-year
most 19-year-olds don't vote. I think the thing is, I might be okay lowering the voting age 16 because I think that for the most part, only those who are politically active are going to vote, which doesn't necessarily mean they're going to skew left. And I mean, a lot of Trump teenagers, but I think that you're not going to get people going out to vote just because you're supposed to vote when they're 16, unless they're really motivated.
Yeah.
And since they could be sent to war during the president, of that cycle, it's not a bad thing for them to have a say in who's president.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that the idea that like, oh, young people shouldn't be politically active. It's like, well, lots of us don't find our political voice, or
it could change throughout your life. Yeah,
I voted for Obama in 2008 at 24 years old. Up until that point, I was pretty conservative, and
so you're saying you shouldn't be able to vote till you're 21. So this way, at 20, you would have not been able to vote. That would be fine.
Yeah, I voted for President Bush in 2004, and then I voted for President Obama in 2008. I will say this, that like if they had different vice presidential running mates, I may have voted for McCain.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong. McCain and Romney. I mean, were not insane people. Like they weren't nearly as bad as Bush or Trump.
Right. So like to me, I voted for Obama. By 4 years, by 2012, I was pretty left leaning, but I'm way more left leaning now. I mean, I arguably am getting to the point where I'm like, in some ways, not so much on the gun thing as you and your family. I think that I'm reasonably left on that, but I'm not like all the way left on that. But in almost every other,
You think some kids should get shot?
Yes. Okay. When I was in school, I absolutely no. No, but I just think that like there is some gun ownership that I think is reasonable in certain circumstances. I think I can.
No, I definitely think there's gun ownership that's reasonable in certain circumstances.
Okay.
Just not the circumstance where there's a handgun and you have a kid.
Yeah, I agree.
Like you live on a farm and there's coyotes. Yeah, you need a gun, a rifle of some sort to be able to defend your farm against the coyotes. I have no problem with that.
Yeah. Yep. And I would also be like okay with certain gun ownership if you had like properly, safed up and you have proper mental health and background checks to my standard of those things.
And I think it's so simple. You just make a national gun permit, gun license that requires regular background checks. And then if you have that license, you can buy a gun if you want to buy a gun. And then storekeepers don't have to do background checks. Private sellers don't have to do background checks. They just look, you got a license from the government and it's current. Easy. Yeah. You beat your wife, you lose that license.
But what I was starting to say is on almost every other issue, I've gone even further left, like going. I'm the most left on most issues of anybody that I know now, and I don't think I was never like a full blown wackadoodle conservative, but I was pro life. For a while.
I think being a Massachusetts conservative is not the same as being a Southern conservative.
Sure,
just like being a Southern Democrat, most of the politicians I know would be Republicans in New York. It's a different. The Overton window is shifted a bit depending on where you are.
Yeah,
not all of them, but some. Like the one person I know who's in the House who's as liberal as my family is the black sheep of the house. Like she gets scowled at because she's too far left for the party.
Yeah.
Oh, and she might be your person. Who's your representative?
Which level is this?
Representative, House representative, state.
State. Oh, Jesus Christ! I don't know.
It might be Maria Cervana. It might.
I saw her signs.
Yeah, Maria might be your area, and she's our favorite person because she's further left than everybody else.
Yeah. I think that
when we went talking to people for Trying a Free Thought, we talked to her. She goes, "Well, I'm not an atheist. I'm Catholic. She's from the Philippines." And she goes, "But my husband is. Can I have some of your pins for him? He'd love to wear one of these pins." And I was like, "Yes, of course you can."
Yeah, I was with the Overton window thing. I'm really worried that we're going to see it go even further right now.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, but
because
we may also make it a pendulum swing back the other way. Same way that Obama gave us a pendulum swing into Trump, a second Trump might not, but might. That's
yeah,
like, I mean, a lot of assholes were saying in 2016, vote for Trump because then when the pendulum swings back, we'll get someone further left. And it's like, yeah, let's kill some people so maybe other ones get things. Not a good plan. I don't think
no.
it's worth the trade off, but maybe it'll happen, and that'll be a good thing if it did.
Yeah.
It won't justify Trump being president, but it would be in and of itself a good thing.
Yeah, but we didn't have it after Reagan. Reagan pulled the Overton window to the right, and then obviously President Bush the first at least kept it where it was, and then in order to beat him, Bill Clinton had to go further right than a Democrat had gone.
Yeah, and being a Southern Democrat is not the same as a Northern Democrat. Like he is from the South. His Democrat was like probably similar to where Nixon was as a Republican, as a California Republican. It was probably almost the same thing.
But part of that was also was strategic too, and they Republicans want tough on crime, so President Clinton's going to be tough on crime. And
part of it's strategic, but part of it's also the Democrat that won was a Democrat that was more centrist. Yeah. Bernie Sanders never wins.
True. But part of that is because everybody says oh, that's too far. That's too far.
I'm saying the window is too far to the right.
Yeah.
So someone who would be moderate outside of the United States is seen as far left in the United States because the window is so far over.
Yeah. It looks like Maria Cervania is, because we're in Wake County, so.
Well, so am I. I'm still somewhat different.
Oh. We can look at her map and see.
You'd have to pull up yourself. You have to go to voter lookup and put your name in and see who your person is.
Oh.
You don't have to do it on the call.
Yeah. I'm taking pride in looking up something that's not the topic of the episode. I'm going to be our Jamie, and I'm going to look up stuff. I'm going to fact check us. Anyway, should we start wrapping things up?
Sure. I'm looking you up, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I look so often that it just comes up on my phone. I type NC and voter lookup is the first thing that comes up.
Yeah. I was going to say, Alex was saying earlier that he never looked me up to see if...
Do you know, there's a Michael Cole with your middle name in Raleigh. I won't say your middle name on the air, but it's, you have
Christopher, you can say that.
There's a Michael Christopher Cole. Like I went to click on it, that's Raleigh zip code. That's not Cary.
That's weird. Unless it's like work. Unless they have my work information in there for some reason.
No. There's just. I mean, you're there, but there's a second person there.
Weird.
Your house, District 21. Let's see. Oh no, you're Yalu, who is the same. You have the same person we do. We have Yalu also.
Nice.
She's also very cool, but she's not as far left as Maria.
Yeah. Well. All right, so Matthew, you want to start us off?
You did have Maria before the gerrymandering. Like, you probably had Maria last year and this year.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
All right, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I guess if you are looking at our beautiful faces right now, then you are either spying in our homes or you're on the YouTubes and maybe TikTok this week. Though I think the TikTok law is going to be that it can't be in the app stores anymore, but it can continue running. Just no new people will be able to get TikTok. So for a while, it'll stumble along. But if you're watching us on the YouTubes, hey, go ahead and follow our YouTube channel if you don't. You should if you don't. Go ahead and hit the notification bell so you know whenever we drop a video. That would be cool. Oh, what? You've already done both those things? Well, make sure you like this video. What? You already liked the video as soon as it started? How about make a comment? You can make more than one comment. Do a comment, hit return, another comment. Comment on things throughout the video as we go. Why'd you wait till the end to even think about that? You can be making comments as you go. What? I can hear Ricochet Rita typing. She makes comments on every video. That's the kind of engagement we're looking for. Be like Ricochet Rita. Make comments, subscribe, like, send us gifts of money. Oh, wait, you can't send us money through YouTube. How could they send us money, Michael?
Well, you can send us money through patreon.com/talking about the big stuff. We have $1, $3, and $10 options. The $1 gets you the episodes typically 4 days early. not this week, but it gets to you 4 days early. The $3 option also gets it to you 4 days early with a little extra content, and the $10 version gets it to you those 4 days early with we'll just call it a bukkake of content. And if you are listening to us on a regular podcast platform like Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever, give us a 5-star rating or a thumbs up. Give us a review. Make sure that you are following or subscribed, whatever that platform calls it. Yeah, and like I said, if you wanted to give us money, patreon.com/talking about the big stuff. Matthew, any last thoughts?
I was going to say thank you for hanging out with us this week as we talked about the big stuff and talked about the little stuff and went through meandering little paths. But you know what? It takes a lot to stick with us through all our meanderings. You should be proud that you did.
Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. It's just the beginning. If you have thoughts or questions or topics you'd like us to tackle in a future episode, drop us a line on our social media channels. Engage with this video when you are now watching it as a VOD on YouTube. Send us an email. We love hearing from our listeners, bringing us topics, because if you leave it up to the three of us, we're going to eventually be talking about underwater basket weaving. So we would appreciate you guys reaching out a little bit. Don't forget to subscribe to Talking About the Big Stuff on your favorite platform. Give us a 5-star rating. Engage with it. Criticize us. We need to grow and be better, and you're going to help us be there. You're going to help us get to that point. It really helps us more to reach out and also to keep the conversation going. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week with more big ideas and more thought-provoking discussions. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep talking about the big stuff.
The preceding podcast has been a Chocolate Diamond Media LLC production. Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.